If you really stop to think about our daily shower routines,
Yeah.
there's this massive unspoken expectation of just aggressive efficiency.
Oh, yeah. Completely.
Right. Like you get in, you scrub your hair into this giant lather, you rinse, and you get out. I mean, we treat washing our hair like we're basically power washing a driveway.
That is exactly what it is.
Yeah, we just grab whatever heavily fragranced, brightly colored bottle happens to be on the shelf,
Yeah.
and we go to war with our own heads.
Which is, it's an entirely friction-based approach to personal care. I mean, the overarching goal for most people is that immediate, squeaky, clean feeling, and we want to achieve it in under 5 minutes.
Right, the classic squeak.
Exactly. But that squeak is actually, it's the sound of stripped, depleted skin.
It is. It's rushed, it's a chore, and frankly, it's pretty harsh. But then, you step into the philosophy of the artisanal hair care brand we're looking at today, a brand called Raiz Rayo, and suddenly that whole power washer approach seems not just entirely wrong, but actively counterproductive to what we actually want for our hair.
It really does reframe everything.
It does. So welcome to today's deep dive. We have a really fascinating stack of sources to go through today. We're looking at pre-order campaign details, website material, and the core formulation philosophy behind a brand that is, quite honestly, trying to initiate a massive paradigm shift in how we treat ourselves.
Yeah, the materials they've put out represent a complete 180-degree turn from how the modern beauty industry has, taught us to manage our daily grooming and, surprisingly, our daily stress.
Yes, the stress aspect is huge because the mission of this deep dive isn't just about finding a slightly better shampoo for your shower shelf.
Right, that's not the goal here.
Not at all. The mission here is to shift our collective focus away from the dead ends of our hair, which, let's face it, we completely obsess over, and look down at the actual soil where it grows.
The root system.
Exactly. We're going to unpack Raiz and Rayo's core philosophy, which is built on this beautifully provocative statement. They say, your scalp is your nervous system's mirror.
It's a heavy statement.
It is.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because if my scalp is mirroring my nervous system right now, it is probably tense, overworked, and heavily caffeinated.
I think we can all relate to that.
Right. So how exactly does the skin under my hair actually reflect my stress levels?
Well, the biology behind that statement is actually incredible when you break it down. I mean, think about the physical mechanics of stress.
Okay.
When your nervous system is in a state of fight or flight, or even just dealing with, low-grade daily anxiety, you subconsciously hold tension in your jaw, your neck, and the muscles across your cranium.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I guess I do clench my jaw a lot.
Most of us do. And that physical tightness literally restricts blood flow and oxygen to your hair follicles. The scalp becomes rigid.
It just tightens up entirely.
Exactly. And when you combine that internal tension with what we put on the outside, like dry shampoo, daily sweat, environmental pollution, heavy styling products, you end up with a highly congested, suffocated root system.
And our natural response to that suffocated, greasy feeling is to just jump in the shower and scrub harder with foaming detergent.
Right, the power washing instinct.
Yes. But to understand what Raiz and Rayo is doing, we basically have to completely dismantle that standard routine.
We really do.
They want us to move away from this concept of aggressively scrubbing away the bad and instead focus on priming the canvas.
Which is such a different mindset.
It really is. They advocate for a pre-wash ritual using targeted organic scalp oils. But I actually have to stop right here and raise a natural skepticism on behalf of you, the listener.
Go for it.
Wait, putting oil on a congested, sweaty, oily scalp sounds like a recipe for a greasy disaster.
It sounds totally counterintuitive.
Right. How does adding oil fix an oil problem? I mean, it sounds like trying to clean a greasy frying pan by pouring more olive oil on it.
What's fascinating here is the underlying chemistry of how botanical oils actually interact with the natural sebum on your head.
Okay, so it's not just layering grease on grease.
Not at all. It comes down to the scientific principle that, dissolves. The oil on your scalp plus the buildup from products is lipophilic, meaning it binds to other fats and oils, but it repels water.
Ah, so water just kind of bounces off it.
Exactly. When you just throw water and harsh soapy lather at it, you're having to use immense physical friction to tear that buildup off the skin.
Okay, so applying oil beforehand completely changes that dynamic.
It does.
It's essentially the same logic as using a makeup remover balm before washing your face. The clean oil binds to the stubborn, waxy buildup, breaking it down gently so that it easily slips away when you finally add shampoo and water.
Yes.
You don't have to aggressively scrub to get it off.
That is the perfect analogy. And there is a secondary physiological benefit to this pre-wash method, too.
Oh, really? What's that?
Well, overwashing with harsh lather to fix oiliness actually damages your scalp's acid mantle, which is the protective barrier of the skin.
And we definitely need that barrier.
We absolutely do, because when you strip that barrier away, your sebaceous glands panic. They go into overdrive, pumping out excess oil to compensate for the sudden dryness.
Oh, no, so it backfires entirely.
Yep. This creates a cycle of rebound seborrhea where your hair gets greasier faster, forcing you to wash it even more.
So the traditional power washing method is quite literally creating the exact problem we are trying to scrub away.
Exactly. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Man. So how exactly are we supposed to apply this pre-wash oil to break that cycle?
The brand dictates a very specific ritual. You don't just slap it on in the shower.
Okay, so what's the first step?
You actually section your dry hair before you even turn the water on. You apply the oil directly along the parts, and then you do a slow, intentional circular massage for 3 to 5 minutes.
Which directly addresses that cranial muscle tension we talked about earlier. You're physically stimulating the blood flow.
Precisely. And after that massage, you just let it sit.
For how long?
Anywhere from 10 to 60 minutes. You let the lipophilic properties do the heavy lifting of dissolving those hardened sebum plugs in your follicles.
So you just go about your morning routine while it works.
Right. And by the time you step into the shower and apply your shampoo, the cleansing step becomes a gentle refinement rather than a harsh, aggressive strip.
That makes total sense mechanically. And honestly, it sounds incredibly relaxing.
It's meant to be.
But, knowing that regular coconut oil from my kitchen pantry just sort of sits on my head and clogs my pores, I want to look closely at what is actually going into these specific elixirs to make them effective.
Yeah, that's an important distinction.
Because it clearly isn't just generic cooking oil.
No, the formulation standards here are incredibly rigid. And to understand why, you really have to look at the origins of the brand. Raiz Rayo was created by Natalie Walker.
And she has a pretty extensive background, right?
Very. She is a stylist and a formulator with over 30 years of firsthand experience in the hair industry.
30 years behind the chair is a massive amount of observational data.
Yeah.
I mean, she's seen every type of scalp issue imaginable.
Oh, absolutely. The brand material notes that this entire line was born from those thousands of hours. She spent her days listening to scalp stories, touching the tension, seeing the reactivity and the dullness at the roots up close.
And what was her main takeaway from all that?
She realized that Western hair care was entirely focused on masking the symptoms on the hair shaft rather than actually treating the underlying environment.
Treating the soil, like we said earlier.
Exactly. To solve this, she looked to ancient traditions. Specifically, she's blending Ayurvedic and Japanese Kampo herbal wisdom with modern extraction science.
Okay, let's break those traditions down, because those are terms that get thrown around a lot in, modern wellness spaces.
They do, yeah?
What specific Ayurvedic and Kampo principles are actually being applied here?
Well, in Ayurvedic tradition, the crown of the head is considered a vital energy point. The practice of Shirovyanga, which is a targeted head massage using warm botanical oils, is deeply rooted in Ayurveda.
And what is the purpose of that practice?
It's used as a way to not just stimulate hair follicles, but to physically ground the nervous system and clear mental fatigue.
Oh, wow. So tying directly back to that stress relief aspect.
Exactly. And Japanese Kampo, on the other hand, is an adaptation of traditional Chinese medicine that focuses heavily on the precise synergy of herbs.
Synergy meaning how they work together, rather than just isolated ingredients.
Right. Kampo formulations are specifically designed to reduce systemic inflammation and promote microcirculation.
Which is exactly what a tight, tense scalp needs.
Precisely. Raiz Rayo takes these time-tested botanical approaches to detoxifying the skin and brings them up to modern clinical formulation standards.
Okay, I see the historical foundation there, but let me push back a bit on the modern marketing claims.
Sure.
Because I'm looking at their list of standards, and it says 100% organic, vegan, water-free, alcohol-free, GMO-free, cruelty-free, no synthetic fragrances, no parabens.
It's a long list.
It really reads like the ultimate clean beauty checklist. But, the beauty industry throws the word organic around constantly just to justify really high prices.
Oh, all the time.
Right. So does an organic label actually mean this oil is going to miraculously cure a flaky, irritated scalp?
The brand's transparency on this specific point is actually quite refreshing. They explicitly state in their materials that organic does not mean hypoallergenic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it does not mean medical grade, and they guarantee zero miraculous medical results.
Wow, they actually put that in print.
They do. They are very clear that plant botanicals are active compounds, and just because something is grown organically doesn't mean it's a silver bullet for a dermatological condition.
I really appreciate that level of honesty. Like, we guarantee no medical miracles, but here is exactly the quality we are giving you.
Right. What organic means to them is a strict, uncompromising choice regarding the sourcing of their raw materials. They only use high-quality, cold-pressed plant oils, completely avoiding unnecessary synthetic fillers.
Which makes sense.
And that point you mentioned earlier about the formula being water-free is actually crucial to the potency.
Yeah, why is water-free so important? Because almost every shampoo or serum in my bathroom lists aqua as the very first ingredient.
Because water is cheap and it bulks up the product.
Just filler, basically.
Yeah, in standard beauty products, water often makes up 70 to 80% of the bottle. But where there is water, bacteria can easily grow.
And nobody wants mold in their hair oil.
Exactly. So to prevent that bacteria, companies have to add strong synthetic preservatives like parabens.
I see the chain reaction now.
Right. By making their elixirs entirely water-free and alcohol-free, Raiz Rayo eliminates the need for harsh preservatives altogether.
That's brilliant.
You aren't paying for diluted product. You are getting 100% active, targeted botanicals designed to feel incredibly light while delivering grounding aromatic profiles naturally derived from the plants themselves.
That fundamentally changes the value proposition, for sure.
Yeah.
And it leads us perfectly into how these high-standard ingredients are actually packaged and sold to the consumer.
Yeah, the retail side is fascinating.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
Because they don't just sell one giant, one-size-fits-all bottle of miracle oil. They sell these $95 trio sets.
Right.
Each set comes with 3 different 30-milliliter bottles. And when you read through how these are meant to be used, it's like a highly targeted skincare routine, but for the top of your head.
That's exactly how they frame it.
Because you don't use the exact same face serum when your skin is dry as you do when it's breaking out, right?
Of course not.
So they apply that same logic to the scalp, allowing you to layer specific serums based on exactly how your skin is acting that week.
They refer to these fluctuating states as scalp moods.
Scalp moods, I love that phrasing.
It's very accurate. Depending on your hormones, the weather, your stress levels, or even your diet, your scalp environment changes.
It's a living ecosystem.
Yes. To address this, they formulated 4 core elixirs, each with a different botanical function, and they curate these into 3 specific kits based on your overarching goal.
Okay, let's break those functional kits down for us, because if someone is investing $95, they need to know exactly which ecosystem they're actually trying to balance.
Absolutely. So the first option is the core ritual. This is curated for the scalp minimalist.
Okay, the minimalist.
If you don't have severe issues, but you just want a balanced everyday reset, this is the trio for you. It's formulated to provide a silken, cushiony glide across the skin with a very calm, grounded, aromatic profile, think like soft herbal warmth.
Sounds lovely.
The botanical focus here is on sebum regulation. It balances out the extremes of oiliness and dryness, and it gently dissolves the everyday buildup that tends to flatten your style at the root.
So that's the solid baseline, the everyday maintenance.
Right.
But what if my scalp is highly reactive? What if it feels tight, itchy, and just easily irritated?
Then you would look at the sensitive reset. This kit shifts the botanical focus entirely towards soothing inflammation.
Oh, perfect.
It's designed for scalps that feel delicate or angry. The formulation texture here is completely different too. It provides a feather-light slip so you aren't tugging at the hair during the massage.
Because the last thing an angry scalp needs is pulling and tugging.
Exactly. Aromatically, it features cocooning, subtle floral nuances. The ingredients are built to calm the feeling of tightness and support a more comforted, resilient skin barrier over time.
It's essentially an anti-inflammatory calm down for your head.
Yes.
And what about the third option?
The third kit is the growth ritual. This one is specifically for someone focused on the visual appearance of density and wanting a more energized root environment.
Okay, so if you're feeling a bit flat or thin at the roots.
Right. It provides a gently awakening, stimulating sensation on the skin, and the scent profile leans very bright and herbaceous.
Like an espresso shot for your hair.
Basically. The mechanism here is about aggressively yet safely clarifying the follicle opening.
How does that help with density?
By clearing away the heavy, impacted debris that can visually thin out the base of your hair, the hair shaft can emerge unhindered. This creates more lift and the appearance of thicker roots.
Okay, so you choose the trio that fits your current scalp mood. You massage the oils in while your hair is dry, you let it sit, and then you wash.
That's the routine.
But the obvious question is the timeline. Because we are so conditioned by the power washer mentality to expect our products to work immediately. Like, if I do this on a Tuesday, am I walking around with perfect hair on Wednesday?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to look at the brand's central operating mantra, which is consistency is greater than intensity.
Consistency over intensity. I mean, that goes against almost every marketing campaign in the beauty industry.
It really does, because it respects the biological reality of skin turnover and hair growth cycles. They lay out a very clear, realistic roadmap for the user.
Walk me through that roadmap. What happens first?
In weeks 1 to 2, the benefit is purely tactile. It's about that clean, less congested feeling post-wash. Your roots will physically feel lighter, and your hair will simply look less weighed down by product residue.
So there is immediate textural relief, but your underlying scalp health hasn't magically transformed yet.
Correct. It takes time. Moving into weeks 3 to 6, that's when you enter the harmonization phase.
Harmonization, what does that feel like?
The scalp starts feeling calmer and less reactive because you are no longer stripping its acid mantle with harsh friction. Your roots begin to stay lighter for longer periods between washes, and those pendulum swings of extreme oiliness or extreme flakiness start to level out.
So the panic production of oil we talked about earlier starts to subside.
Exactly.
And what happens if you stick with it beyond that month-and-a-half mark?
That brings us to weeks 8 to 12. This is when the magic of the habit actually takes hold. You've established a consistent, calming ritual that actively regulates your nervous system through massage.
Because you've been doing it a few times a week for months.
Right. And biologically, because you've spent 2 months consistently reducing that heavy, waxy buildup inside the follicle, you may start to see a genuinely improved look of density and lift at the base.
Wow.
Again, there are no medical guarantees, but healthier scalp habits inevitably support how your hair looks and behaves at the root.
So what does this all mean for how we actually get our hands on these formulas? Because this philosophy of consistency over intensity and highly intentional formulation, it doesn't just stop at the ingredients.
No, it permeates everything they do.
It completely dictates the company's business model.
Hmm.
And their approach to retail is wildly unusual for an industry built on instant gratification.
It really is.
I mean, why make people wait until the week of May 10th for a pre-order instead of just stocking a massive warehouse and offering next-day delivery?
Because a massive warehouse model basically destroys the integrity of cold-pressed oils. The brand is launching with a pre-order campaign for what they call a limited first drop of exactly 350 trio sets.
Only 350 sets. That is an incredibly tiny batch for a global online launch.
It is extremely small.
Uh-huh.
But it's a formulation necessity for a product made of 100% organic, cold-pressed botanicals.
Oh.
The linoleic and oleic acids in these unrefined oils are delicate. If you mass-produce them and let them sit in a distribution center for 8 months under fluorescent lights, the active compounds begin to oxidize and degrade.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, they can even go rancid.
So the pre-order model isn't just a marketing trick to create artificial scarcity. It ensures zero overstock. There are no aging batches sitting on a shelf losing their potency.
Precisely. They blend the formulas, bottle them, and ship the absolute freshest batches directly to the consumer the moment they are ready. You are getting the botanicals at peak efficacy.
That makes total sense.
And they've structured it as a zero-risk model for the buyer. You reserve your trio, they process the payment, but you have the complete freedom to cancel any time before your order physically leaves their studio for a full refund.
So you aren't locked in if you change your mind while waiting.
Right.
They also mention a founder's first drop perk for those who actually manage to get into this initial 350 set run. What does that entail?
By joining this first drop, consumers get early access to future formulation tests, behind-the-scenes looks at product development, and exclusive invitations to future Raiz and Rayo events.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, they are aiming to build what they call the R&R Bestie Tribe, a dedicated community centered around the concept of ritual healing, rather than just treating their customers like a barcode to move units.
It's a brilliant way to force the consumer to slow down before the product even arrives at their door. I mean, the anticipation itself becomes the first step of the ritual.
It really sets the tone for the whole experience.
Let's briefly summarize the journey we've just taken through these sources because it represents a massive shift in perspective.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. Raiz and Rayo is basically asking us to completely redefine hair care as skincare, and skincare as a nervous system reset. They've taken 30 years of clinical salon observation from their founder, integrated the targeted botanical synergies of ancient Campo and Ayurvedic traditions, and completely removed the diluting water, alcohol, and synthetic preservatives that basically dominate the market.
And they've protected the integrity of those active, cold-pressed botanicals by utilizing an anti-mass production business model that prioritizes absolute freshness over immediate, thoughtless consumption.
Exactly. They're asking us to stop power washing our driveways and start actually tending to the soil.
I love that visual.
So for you listening, I want you to genuinely reflect on your own shower routine tomorrow morning. When you reach for that brightly colored bottle, ask yourself, are you merely scrubbing your roots in a rushed panic, or are you actually treating that living skin with intention? Are you just managing the dead, frayed ends of your hair, or are you actively nurturing the source?
This raises an important question, and it's the thought I want to leave everyone with today.
Let's hear it.
Raiz Rayo builds this entire philosophy on the biological reality that your scalp is the mirror to your nervous system. It physically reflects our muscle tension, our rushing, and our internal congestion.
Yeah.
If that is visibly true for the very top of our heads, what other physically neglected parts of our bodies are silently holding on to our daily stress, just waiting for us to slow down, pay attention, and create a dedicated ritual to calm them?